Hey, yo guys, this is Jared, aka the Saint of Sins on Xbox Live, bringing you yet another edition of MLB Thoughts. And yesterday, I managed to catch a break in terms of news, but couldn't catch one for the production of yesterday's edition. First off, I've got to apologize for the video going up so late. I hit a really stupid snag in the editing process that I didn't catch until I spent close to 5 hours rendering the video. That set back the upload by at least 8 hours, and with YouTube thinking it's cute that my video should take over 140 minutes to upload, it just ended up being an ugly mess. Now that I've aired that out, let's get into today's topic: the National League Central buyers and sellers, playoff pretenders and contenders. As always, we begin at the bottom with what I dubbed at the start of the season the worst team in baseball, Houston Astros. They've already begun the selling process of this team, finally parting ways with Carlos Lee and freeing up some money off the books for a healthy free agency offseason hunt, though now it looks like Lee might find himself on the move once again. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The Stros have already moved Brett Myers, a decision that many of its fans had wished could have been made back in his first season with Houston, 2010. His trade value was much higher then, but unfortunately for fans, former general manager Ed Wade was a stubborn man who really didn't like the idea of rebuilding the farm system to keep the team competitive. And the team was able to deal off Wandy Rodriguez to division rival Pittsburgh for Rudy Owens, Robbie Grossman, and Colton Kane. All are very young, but nothing spectacular that is going to change the organization moving forward. Then again, Jose Altuve wasn't expected to be this kind of explosive player when the team signed him as a 70-year-old amateur free agent. There's still much more selling to be made, but things are looking interesting. The farm system is looking much better. They've cleared some of those terrible Wade contracts off the books, finally. And they have a really exciting young core of players. The future looks bright, but I still believe Wade damaged this team moving forward for the next 5 years after poorly handling their minor league system, so don't get your hopes up too soon. Next up are the Chicago Cubs, and really, this team looks more and more like the worst in the league when you really take into consideration that they seem to have no plan moving forward. Back in late May, the team made it clear that anyone and everyone, barring just Samardzija, was open to trade discussion. This included their star shortstop Starlin Castro. Now things could have cooled down in those regards, but still the team has a lot of baggage to get rid of. Some positives are there is finally interest in Alfonso Soriano, and it doesn't look like the Cubs will have to eat most of or all of the contract to move him. There's high interest in Dempster that has created a bidding war while he sits and waits to decide. They have viable options to move Paul Maholm, Matt Garza, and Brian LeHare was a fantastic surprise that could net them some valuable minor leaguers. All in all, things could start to finally turn around for the Cubbies after this season wraps up. Up next, you knew this was inevitable. The Milwaukee Brewers are done. They simply have only enough tools to keep their heads above the Cubs, and that's really a shame as this was a viable playoff contender for years leading into this season. So what went so horribly wrong? Well, for me, it began with the trade of Casey McGahee after failing to sign Prince Fielder. It was clear they weren't too interested in giving the power-slugging first baseman a long and heavy contract as they held fears for his health deteriorating and suspected that he wouldn't be able to leg out the length of that contract. But that was good news. They had money to spend and were going to try and spend it wisely. This is the sole reason they have life in trying to retain Zach Greinke to an extension. But what's killing them is that they have almost nothing else to offer. There's almost no value in Randy Wolf now. Francisco Rodriguez has looked poor in recent outings. George Coteras isn't going to get a lot, and Corey Hart's lost considerable value this season. This is an ugly season for Milwaukee as they're going to end up doing poorly just 1 year removed from their NLCS appearance. And they're not going to get much back in the way of young help to move forward for next season. Too many drawbacks on what should have been a showcase season for a team that decided to let walk their biggest offensive threat. Now that we've got the junk sorted through, let's take a look at who's still vying for a playoff berth. Let's begin with the contending Pittsburgh Pirates. This is a team that I really fell in love with about 4 seasons ago when I started researching their farm system and really trying to figure out what they've been doing wrong and how they plan to correct that. Right now, I am proud to say that I'm in love with the work that Neil Huntington has done for this franchise. He's been building, slowly, a working program that is finally starting to pay off. He's refocused the team to be a pitching-first ball club, while being smart about their offseason signings to help fetch some excellent prospects in exchange at the deadline. The tipping point that sold me on this team's growth strategy as being legitimate was their acquisition of Tim Alderson from the San Francisco Giants for Freddie Sanchez back in 2009. At the time, Alderson was the Giants' #2 pitching prospect in the organization. The only issue with the team? They're still struggling to find any kind of flow offensively. Manager Clint Hurdle has been a tremendous motivator for this team, much like he was for the Colorado Rockies. But there's only so much one man can do when almost the entire team is inconsistent at the plate. The lone exception? Andrew McCutchen. Now, while I'm enjoying the sights of this team getting tremendous ace-like outings from AJ Burnett, a solid bullpen that ranks second in the league for ERA, right behind the Cincinnati Reds, and great play from the league's best center fielder, McCutchen, I have to be realistic. It's what I pride myself on. This team is doing exceptionally well considering how soft their offense can be, and generally is. It's a tough uphill battle for them, especially when you have to constantly square off against a surging Reds team that is thriving off of their near unhittable bullpen and the defending world champion Cardinals, who probably have the most diverse and prolific offense in the league. I expect them to continue battling. I expect them to remain buyers and shrug off last season's collapse as they push forward and remain healthy. My only gripe is this: the team is going to need another big bat. The addition of Wandy Rodriguez was nice and it gives them more strength at the top of their rotation now, but in all honesty, it wasn't a big need. No, the high on base percentage and average bat was that big need, and they've still yet to fulfill it. Someone who provides consistency above any other attribute. Right now, I couldn't agree more with their targeting of Justin Upton because he provides that quality to a team that isn't. The price might be a bit steep, but this team certainly has generated a lot of depth to their minor league system that I think they can sustain the hit. But as I said last season and at the start of this season, I'm only picking the Pirates to finally have a winning season. This year, they're certainly overdue, and I couldn't be happier of their chances to do that and possibly sneak into the playoffs on top of that. As for those defending world champion Cardinals, well, their season started off so strong despite the loss of Chris Carpenter, but now they're struggling to keep from falling next to last season's NLCS opponents. The bullpen looks hideous for a playoff contending team. Their rotation isn't as sharp as it was at the start of the season, and the offense has cooled down some. Still, this is the better looking team moving forward, barring that ugly bullpen of course. This is a team that has plenty of offensive options that they could trade. They have that kind of depth that they could afford to trade a major league performing bat for a relief pitcher and it wouldn't hurt their lineup. This is something I suspect they'll do before the end of the month. And they're going to need that aid moving forward. The pen ranks 23rd in ERA, 17th in batting average against, and 19th in earned runs allowed. This isn't a trend that can continue if this team really hopes to bump out the first place Reds. Speaking of which, my how this team has proven me wrong. Remember back to last month when I criticized the team for not taking advantage of their young, heat-hurling lefty Aroldis Chapman as a starter? Remember what I said about their rotation having a really bad break in terms of quality behind Johnny Cueto? Somehow, they've turned that around. Homer Bailey, a guy I've been a big fan of for almost 4 years now, is finally living up to the potential I saw in him, throwing 15 quality starts in 20 appearances and pitching to the tune of a .353 ERA. Bronson Arroyo and Mike Leake have also managed to become more consistent, each hurling 11 quality outings of their 19 starts. Hell, Leake's turned around and slapped me in the face with his June performance, a 2-0 record with a .255 ERA, 31 strikeouts to 7 walks, and a 106 whip. Of course, this team is going to be in the market, but unlike all the other teams I've talked about, I don't see them making any bullpen acquisitions. They don't need any help there. Sure, they could grab a little depth by picking up a piece, but honestly, I don't see them wanting to trade away a piece for something they don't need help with. A starting pitcher? Yeah, they're going to be looking for anyone to help stop the bleeding that is Matt Latos. A bat? Of course. With Joey Votto going down and the team struggling to sit with a decent leadoff hitter, they're going to be searching for a power bat to come off the bench for some much needed depth, and they're going to be looking for a table setter. At the moment, I've seen notes that state they're looking at the Twins for Denard Spahn, and he would be a perfect fit for the team, but I think a much cheaper option is available. If I'm the Reds, I'm looking at the Phillies, and I'm asking what their price tag on Juan Pierre is. Yeah, he's old. Yeah, he's not as fast as he was, but the man can still hit. He's still a great threat on the bases, and he shouldn't be too pricey for a rental. Is he an everyday player? Probably not. But you've done well enough with Zach Cozart and Drew Stubbs at the top of the lineup that you could probably still cheat it when Pierre isn't playing. But in all honesty, they're probably looking more long term for the top of the order, and Spahn would certainly fit them extremely well. So in summation, the Astros and Cubs will battle it out for dead last, but I think Houston will ultimately still fail to pull together enough wins to avoid 100+ losses. The Brewers are continuing to slide and will end up in 4th, end their year with regrets, and come away with almost nothing to show for it after the trading is all done. I think the Pirates will continue to battle, but if they don't get a consistent bat added to this lineup, they'll be looking at a 3rd place winning season finish. And finally, it's virtually a coin flip between the Cardinals and Reds for the Central Division. And I really feel it's going to be first or home here, as the second wildcard spot could end up going to the East. Choosing now based on what the teams are versus what they could be after trading, I like the Reds' odds of winning it out, despite having to do most of the work now without Votto. So that wraps up this edition of MLB Thoughts. I will see you guys later. Peace.